California, the wealthiest state in America, spent $64,000 per year on every inmate and $11,000 per year on every student. That was a $53,000 gap, exposed in its own budget documents. Between 1987 and 2000, Sacramento built 23 new prisons and not one new university. That was not a coincidence. It was a policy choice. What collapsed in Los Angeles afterward was not a mystery. It was arithmetic. In 1988, California lawmakers put a $1 billion prison bond on the ballot. 4 years later, they did it again. Voters approved both measures, authorizing nearly $2 billion in new debt. Debt earmarked not for schools or universities, but for prison construction. Legislative records from the Assembly Appropriations Committee show how the money moved. Capital outlays for the University of California system were slashed by $954 million between 1987 and 1995. At the same time, corrections capital funding climbed by $926 million. The mechanism was not a budget accident. It was a series of amendments, bond issues, and direct reserve transfers, each debated and passed in full view. In 1994, Assembly Bill 1220 amended the General Fund to cut University of California building projects, redirecting funds to corrections. Senate Bill 1266 followed in 1995, transferring $250 million from the Education Capital Reserve to the Corrections Capital Reserve. The official bond authority files document each step. Governor Pete Wilson's veto message on the 1994 Education Capital Bill made the rationale explicit. Existing general fund monies would be reallocated to honor the bond commitments already made for prison construction. The legislative vote was not close, 66-7 in the Assembly and 28-2 in the Senate. Over the course of a decade, Sacramento engineered a near dollar-for-dollar trade: university classrooms for prison cells. The legal intent was clear in the committee transcripts and in the governor's own words. The result was a deliberate contraction of higher education capacity, replaced by an unprecedented expansion of the state's punishment infrastructure. Between 1984 and 2000, California authorized the construction of 23 new state prisons. In that same period, the University of California system did not gain a single new campus. The record shows a deliberate freeze. 3 proposed University of California expansions: Riverside, Santa Cruz, and a new South Bay site were shelved or canceled outright between 1990 and 1995. The University of California Capital Projects Database and the Legislative Analyst's Office Capital Outlay Summaries document the removal of $954 million in university construction funds, while corrections capital surged by $926 million. The mechanism was not a budget shortfall, but a targeted shift. Assembly Bill 1220 and Senate Bill 1266, both passed with overwhelming majorities, transferred education capital reserves directly to prison construction. Governor Pete Wilson's 1994 veto of the Education Capital Bill confirmed the intent. Existing education funds would be diverted to honor prison bond commitments. The opportunity cost was concrete. University of California Riverside's planned research expansion was halted. University of California Merced's launch was postponed for nearly a decade, and no new public research campus opened in California from 1984 until 2005. During a period when the state's population grew by more than 5 million, higher education capacity remained static. The University of California system, once a global model for public research and access, became an institutional casualty of budgetary triage. Legislative transcripts and capital project files record each canceled building, each deferred laboratory, as a line item lost to the prison boom. The absence of new campuses was not a bureaucratic oversight. It was the price set by Sacramento for a policy of expansion through incarceration. 0 new University of California campuses, 23 new prisons. The ledger is public, and the loss is measurable in the institutions that never opened their doors. In 1996, the Los Angeles Unified School District's audited financial statements revealed a $640 million deficit. The California State Auditor's report traced the shortfall to a combination of falling state aid, overestimated enrollment, and fixed personnel costs that could not be cut quickly enough. Facing insolvency, the Board of Education authorized 3 rounds of layoffs. From 1995 to 1999, over 4,200 teachers and staff lost their jobs. Budget contingency memos and union correspondence document how reduction in force notices were distributed, targeting schools with the lowest enrollment growth and the highest poverty rates. Class sizes swelled as a direct result. In elementary grades, the average classroom grew from around 25 to nearly 29 students. Middle and high schools saw their averages climb above 32. The loss of teachers erased the possibility of individualized instruction. Emergency bonds and short-term state loans kept the district solvent on paper, but the cuts were visible in every classroom. The district's own records show that by 1999, only 65% of students graduated on time. 4th grade reading scores collapsed, with 75% of students failing to reach proficiency, and the steepest declines among Black and Latino children. The California Assessment Program's data show proficiency rates of just 12% for African American students and 18% for Latino students. The fiscal crisis did not fall evenly. Geographic analysis of school performance and jail population data reveals that 2/3 of the Los Angeles Unified School District's lowest performing schools sat in neighborhoods with the county's highest incarceration rates. The same census tracts that lost teachers and saw class sizes balloon were those where state investment took the form of prison beds, not textbooks. The numbers leave little room for doubt. The collapse of Los Angeles's schools was engineered through legislative votes, budget amendments, and a series of deliberate reallocations from classrooms to corrections. On March 7, 1994, Governor Pete Wilson signed California's 3 strikes law into effect. The ceremony, broadcast across the state, made clear the policy direction: mandatory 25 years to life sentences for any 3rd felony, regardless of severity. The law's language, expanded by last-minute amendments, swept in a wide array of offenses: burglary, drug possession, even minor property crimes. Prosecutors gained new leverage, and judges lost most of their discretion. The statute's reach was immediate. By 2001, more than 50,000 people had received 3-strike sentences. State corrections data show the prison population surged from 125,473 in 1994 to over 153,000 by 2003, a 22.5% increase. Los Angeles County, with its dense urban neighborhoods, accounted for nearly a quarter of these new sentences. Kern County, driven by aggressive charging and high rates of drug arrests, contributed another 9%. The financial impact was direct and measurable. Longer sentences meant longer stays, higher security costs, and expanded medical care for an aging inmate population. Corrections operating budgets grew by $2.1 billion between 1995 and 2002. Money that had once been available for schools, classrooms, and teachers. The law's deterrent effect, promised at the signing, failed to materialize. Multiple studies using difference in differences methods found that California's drop in violent crime mirrored national trends. Counties that sentenced the most under 3 strikes saw no additional decline compared to those that used it sparingly. The statute produced the highest absolute number of 3-strike prisoners in the country, but not a unique reduction in crime. The 3 strikes law did not simply add to the state's prison population. It locked in a new baseline of incarceration, absorbing resources that might have closed the spending gap between prisoners and students. The result was not a temporary spike, but a permanent fiscal commitment, one that would fall heaviest on the same communities whose schools had already been starved of investment. Researchers at UCLA's $1 Million Hoods Project set out to answer a simple question. How much does the state spend to incarcerate residents from a single Los Angeles block? Their calculation is blunt. The state's own budget puts the annual cost per inmate at $64,642. Multiply that by the number of people from one block who are in state prison. On Census Block 06037101304 in South Central, the count for the period from 1999 to 2000 was 16. The math is direct. 16 residents, each costing the state $64,642, bring the annual total to $1.03 million. That figure does not buy schools, clinics, or local services. It is spent entirely on removing residents from the neighborhood and housing them in distant prisons. The $1 Million Hoods map draws out this hidden ledger, block by block, exposing the scale of public money extracted from communities and redirected toward incarceration. On the ground in South Central, the extraction of public money became visible in the unraveling of daily life. Between 1990 and 2000, unemployment jumped from 9 to 14%. The closure of the community hospital in 1995 and the elimination of key bus routes in 1996 stripped residents of basic services. Neighborhood schools, already under-resourced, saw student suspensions rise 2.3 times above the district average. Each additional person sent to prison from a block corresponded with a measurable increase in school suspensions, an effect quantified at 0.8 percentage points per incarcerated resident. The city's own records show officials expressing disbelief as discipline referrals soared and community institutions vanished. The public ledger documents not just lost opportunity, but a deliberate transfer of resources away from prevention and toward punishment, leaving blocks where the primary state investment was in removing people, not supporting them. Sacramento diverted nearly $1 billion from universities to prison construction. Today, California spends more on incarceration than higher education. The line from budget ledgers to broken neighborhoods is direct, and it was legislated. What collapsed in Los Angeles was not chance. It was the price of political choice. Your move.